Yo, what's up everybody? It's Connor from Unscripted back with another video. In today's video, we are ranking the top 5 players from the Florida Mutineers home series over the weekend, and as always, we're doing things off the script. Now, before we get any further, I'm going to lay out the criteria and like a little disclaimer for this video. So basically, I wanted to keep this to one player from each team, just because I feel like we could do this roughly 80% of the time, probably. We'd have 3 or 4 players from the Atlanta FaZe, and I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to spice it up, be a little unique, and have different players from different teams get in there. So for that reason, there's only one player from each team. And when I get to some of those teams, I will mention the other players who would have had a legit shot at this top 5 if we were not doing that rule. So just so we know that ahead of time, if you skip ahead and see the players and wonder, where the heck's this guy at? That's probably why he's not there. And then also an honorable mention that is not going to be mentioned because of their teammate being on here is Standy. I think he played really, really well for the Rocker. He would just barely missed this list, I think. He was good in all 3 modes. They got a big win, so good for Standy. I think he'd probably be number 6 if I was, again, sticking to one person from each team, but he just missed the cut. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like down below. Leave a comment as well with your thoughts on what you think about the top 5 players from the Florida home series. Let me know where you agree and disagree with me. And subscribe to the channel as well if you enjoy this video and want to see more similar videos like this one from me in the future. I think probably for the rest of the season mostly, I'm probably going to be stepping away from the news videos a little bit. I just think there's only so much news to go around. It's kind of hard to squeeze a story out of something that's not really a story. So, and also there's just some well-established channels that already cover that kind of stuff. So there's not much views to go around in that regard because there's just not that much news right now. But in the future, off-season roster mania, stuff like that, those videos will definitely be back. But for now, probably won't see as much of that. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get into the countdown. Number 5, I'm going with Skump. I think Skump had a really, really good series for Optic. I know they played Paris. I know Paris is not a crazy good team, but they were coming off a big win over the LA Thieves, so they had some momentum. It's not like they're terrible. They're respectable. What hell's Skump back? I mean, you look at his numbers. His numbers are great. If you just go by the numbers, he's probably above some of these guys. The 1.38 overall, really solid. Hardpoint 1.18, search a 3.0. I mean, everybody on Optic played well in that search. They've just pretty much dominated Paris on standoff. So, I mean, everybody had a high KD there. The control really stood out, though, because they did lose that control, which was unfortunate, but he played really well. I don't even know what his numbers were other than the KD. I know it was 1.55, but I think the other 3 teammates might have all been negative. Like, he just didn't really have any help. I swear, every time they went over to his perspective, he was on a streak. Whether it was 2, 3, he was picking up 2 pieces. I mean, he played phenomenal in that control. They couldn't get the win, but that was definitely through no fault of Skump. He played really well. Again, they went 1-0 on the weekend, so you can't. I mean, they got the win. He was the best player on the team in a big win, so I think you have to have him on here. The numbers speak for themselves. He played really well. He is just doing what he does, getting better towards the end of the game. I think the Stage 4 Major being on LAN, the Stage 5 Major and Champs also being on LAN, I think we are going to see some of Skump's best performances that we have not seen yet. I think the best is yet to come for him in this game. We'll see if I'm right. Time will tell. I could be wrong, but for now, he's trending in the right direction, definitely, and we'll just see how he keeps going. But for now, I think he was the number 5 player from the Florida Mutineers home series. Moving on, we have someone from the home team, if you will, Awakening. And while I'm on the topic of Florida, I will say right away, if I was not doing the 1 person per team rule, Skies might have found his way on this list. Skies played really well, but I just barely gave the edge to Awakening. You see, I mean, his numbers are nothing crazy. 1.09 overall, 1.12 in hardpoint, 1.2 in search, and then not even a 1 in control. But his damage was insane. I mean, he played so well. The one search he went like 11-6, and in only 9 rounds, he had like 2,400 damage. I mean, he just put down so much damage in search. He's been one of the best search players all year long. We all know that. Florida, they were able to get 1 big win, but they did fall short just barely against New York in a really, really good series. Tough loss there, but again, Awakening played well in that series too. So even though they did not go 2-0 in the weekend, and even though he didn't have, out of this world stats, he played it very well. And if I had damage stats on here, you'd really see why he's so high in this list. I mean, he hits a lot of shots. He hits a lot of headshots. He gets a lot of damage done. He makes things a lot easier for his teammates. That's the one thing about him, really. He makes it a lot easier on his teammates. His submachine gun duo, who's playing well, Neptune getting better, I'm sure it helps that Awakening has guys weak all the time. I mean, Awakening and Skies, Frying, those guys are interchangeable. Either one of them could have made this list. Both of them playing really well, and they are definitely the reason for Florida's team success they've been having lately. I think Florida is... Right now, they're probably a top 5 team, and I think Awakening and Skies both are big reasons for that. So for that reason, I have Awakening at number 4 on this list. Moving on to last year's MVP, we have Shazi. So Dallas only went 1-1, but Shazi has been phenomenal lately. You look at those numbers, I think I'd be willing to bet all 5 of these guys I have here, those are probably the best KD numbers. I'm pretty sure. I mean, he played really, really well. They just narrowly lost to New York, which was unfortunate for them, but they did get a big win over LAG, much needed, because last week in the Chicago home series, they got smoked by the Ultra, and they squeaked past London. It was not looking good for them. I was on here saying, they're lucky that they had a hot start to the year because they're not even looking like a top 8 team right now. Like, if the season started then, they might not have even made chance. But I don't believe that anymore because they looked really sharp in this weekend. They got that big win over LAG. Shazi played well there. They just barely lost to New York, which we're going to talk about more in a little bit, but Shazi played well in that one too. I mean, his numbers 1.29, 1.23 in hardpoint, search 1.39. He's been really good in search lately. Overall, he's been great. I just think it's crazy to think back to like stage 1 when Dallas was just not quite able to get over the hump and beat FaZe. They were like the second best team in the league. It was Shazi who was letting them down. Hook was playing phenomenal. Krim and Illy were playing okay, and you needed more out of Shazi. Now it's like, can somebody please get Shazi some help because he's been great. I mean, he's getting MVP back to his MVP form, and that's what they need. This team, if he's not playing like this, they have zero chance to beat the top teams. I still don't think they have much of a chance just because their AR duo has been pretty terrible lately, and I really don't see them turning that around. But Shazi has been just out of his mind. He's been so good. His movement, we all know how good his movement is. The pressure he puts on the map, the routes he takes, the plays he makes, just so many good things to say about this guy. It's a shame that his teammates can't pick it up a little bit. Him and Vivid played well against New York. Krim and Illy did not, and that was really the story of that one. Dallas really easily could have won that series. They didn't. But again, no fault of Shazi's. He was great. So that 1-1 could have very easily been a 2-0. And if it was, I think by far Shazi would have deserved the most credit for that. And just overall, his numbers were insane. So I think Shazi, I have him at number 3 right now. FaZe, this is one where you got to mention some other guys because I think pretty much the entire team could easily be mentioned for this. They came out, they went 2-0 on the weekend. They went 6-0 on map count with wins over the Thieves and the Seattle Surge. After the Surge match, this person would have been a Beezy, and I think you could probably still make an argument for it being a Beezy because he was great, but I went with Simp because of his performance against LA Thieves, and really it was one map, honestly, I'm not even going to lie. I mean, he played great throughout. I mean, you see the numbers. It wasn't just one map. You don't get a 1.26 to 1.89 in Search from one map. He played great throughout the weekend, but that control against the LA Thieves are what really jumped him up this list. He went 39 and I think 18, something like that, in the control against the LA Thieves, and it only went 4 rounds. I mean, if it went 5 rounds, we were looking at a potential 50 bomb from Simp. He was insane in that control on raid. He was just getting like 2-piece, 3-piece, clearing the points out, running the routes, just multi-kills, doing everything. It was insane watching him. It's like he'd be one shot, and he would still just melt. They couldn't hit him one time before he killed them. He was just ripping people off headies. He was making insane plays. You can't say enough good things about this guy. I think every time I think this team can't get any better, they somehow get better. They just keep getting better every time they play. It's insane. Him and Abizi, just can't say enough good things about that duo. You kind of run out of ways to describe how good they are. Like, it just sounds like you're beating the same drum over and over again because you are. I mean, what else can you say? They're just so good. Archie's and Celium, of course, deserve their credit as well. Like I said, you can't really pick one guy from this team, but if you have to, I went with Simp just because, again, that control was insane. It just stuck in my head, but Abizi's plays from the Seattle series were in my head too. I could have been any of these guys. I just went with Simp. I think my answer to who's better between Simp and Abizi kind of changes every single time I'm asked the question. I think for season long, I still lean towards Abizi. I think right now he would be number 1. If I was making an MVP ballot, I think Abizi would be my pick. But Sim would be second. And, I mean, they're the top 2 players in the world. They're the top 2 MVP players, in my opinion, for this year. And just for this weekend, I just gave it to Sim, but it could have went either way with all 4 of these guys. Best team in the game, one of the best players in the game. What more can you really say about Simp? And finally, the last guy, I'm not even going to lie. This was basically made from one game mode by why Mac took the number 1 spot, and you can tell what it is by looking at the stats. Of course, it's hardpoint. His overall KD was a 1.18, but it was only because of hardpoint. You see the S&D and the control KDs were lower, but the 1.41 in hardpoint, and it is not just the KD. He had 144 kills, I think it was. Oh, yeah, it was, over the course of 4 hardpoints this weekend. So they went 3-1 in hardpoints, 1-1 against Dallas, and 2-0 against Florida. And he had 144 kills, 36 kills per game in his 4 hardpoints. He had 30, 34, and then 2 40 bombs. 2 40 bombs against Dallas. How can you not have him at the top of this list after having 2 40 bombs in one series? He had like 109 kills or something for the series. The one hardpoint against Dallas, he had over 7,000 damage, like well over. He had like 7,400 damage against Dallas in that one hardpoint. You can make the argument they got lucky and they didn't even deserve to win some of those maps. You go ahead and make the argument. You can make that argument all you want, but they didn't. They won. That's what matters. They went 2-0 on the weekend, and they got 2 wins over 2 quality teams in Florida and in Dallas. So they're looking good. I mean, they're going to make winner's bracket. That is good for them, and Mac has been phenomenal. I just wanted to put him at number 1 also because I feel like he's so underrated. He does not get enough credit he deserves. I've been saying all year long he's been underrated. He struggled with the SMG earlier in the season, but since he's been back on AR, he has been great. And then I should give a shout out to Hydra too, because I don't think he would have made the top 5 even if we were doing more than 1 per team. but he would have at least deserved a mention. He played well too, despite clearly being very sick. I mean, he's a top talent in the league, no doubt. I think he's more talented than Mac, but I think Mac's performances against Dallas and Florida spoke for themselves. So I have Mac at the number 1 spot, but really a couple of these guys have an argument. I mean, it's a tough one. There was a lot of good Call of Duty played over the weekend. There was a lot of players really making a statement and showing out and showing why they are so good. So I went with Mac, but Simp, Abizi, Shazi, all these guys and more, Standy. There's so much talent on display this weekend. So that is my top 5. Let me know down below how you feel about it, what you would have your top 5 as, where we agree and disagree. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. Leave a like on the video as well if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one from me in the future. I appreciate all that. It means a lot to me as I try to grow this channel. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you had a good day today, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.